Hello, and welcome to Talk Social to Me. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and today I'm joined by Wave. Wave, would you like to kind of explain who you are, what you do, and why pretty much I had you come on to talk about social media?
Sure. So my name is Wave Wyld. Yes, that's my real name. I get that question a lot. So let's just clear the air there. Yeah, and I'm a TikTok marketing and trends expert. That is my niche. I help business owners to leverage TikTok as another social media platform to generate leads and make more sales.
That's amazing. So when did you kind of start building this niche because it is very niche in this
Yeah,
space?
it's a bit of a long story, but if you want me to go there, I
Love
started
it.
like a lot of people did in 2020 when the pandemic came. I got on maybe a month before the pandemic really happened in March, and I had a social media, actually an Instagram coach friend who was like, "You should really get on TikTok. There's a lot of interesting things going on there." At that time, I was working as a photographer,
Mhm.
specifically in personal brand photography. So I was creating content for business owners and teaching them some Instagram strategies, digital marketing strategies. So I got on TikTok and I just fell in love with the app because you can be so creative with it. I love the music, all the effects, and I just love the culture and the vibe there. And I didn't know what I was doing though. I just started posting random videos, and I did have one go what I would classify now as like semi-viral, about
Yep.
100K thousand views, and that's what got me hooked. Got me really and that's everyone. You get like a video that performs well and it gets you so
Yep.
hooked on TikTok. And I started talking about my experience on TikTok with my Instagram audience, and I was getting a ton of DMs and questions. And it was kind of a light bulb moment where I was like, you know what? There's a lot of demand for this knowledge, and I can really help people and teach them how to use the platform. So at the time, I was like, I have a lot of Instagram coach friends, but like there's nobody really doing this for TikTok. I had
Yeah,
seen maybe
absolutely.
less than 5 people at the time, and I felt really in alignment with it. I thought with my background in personal branding, I could bring some really unique aspects to TikTok and how to really leverage it. So I yeah, just went all in.
That's amazing. So at that point, I'm guessing, was it as soon as that first video kind of went semi-viral, as you said, was that when you were like, okay, I'm going to start teaching people short form
It
content?
took a little bit of time. So here's what I actually did. I did launch a new account in around, it took a few months. And what I started to do was as soon as I hit 1,000 followers, I would go live. Live streaming is huge on TikTok. And I would give people a look at their accounts and give them a few tips. And then I would tell them, if you want to book like an audit with me, you can do so, through the link in my bio. And at that time, like I was still learning. So it was super cheap, like $15 for 15 minutes
Yeah.
or something like that. And I would come off lives and I would have like all these bookings, and it was crazy. So I started, doing these live and these account audits, and I did around 400 of them
Oh,
or
wow.
so over the next few months. And I was like, okay, I have a really, really strong foundation of how I could help people, because I saw a lot of the same patterns and the same struggles that people were having. And that by that time, I was able to kind of test some solutions. And then I knew I had some solid strategies that I could sell in a course. So then after that, I started scaling and I launched a course.
That's amazing. So, what were some of the kind of similar patterns that you were noticing when people were like, okay, I know I need help. How can you help me?
Yeah. The big one is that a lot of people just don't know how to make short form video content.
Yep.
And that makes total sense because it's such a new medium of marketing, right? It hasn't been around that long. What is it? Maybe 5 years now
Yeah.
with the influx of like TikTok, and then now short form is everywhere. But really, what it comes down to is being able to communicate a message through short form video. So that's really what I focus on, and how to do that with my clients and students. But that was the biggest one. They just don't know how to make videos. Now, over the past few years, what's kind of really cool and what I've seen with short form video, and you've probably noticed this as well, is that there are now like go-to formats that people do, such as a vlog is
Yep.
a popular one. The doing the duets or stitches, that's another type of format. Talking head videos, right, where you just talk to the camera. POV videos, like there's all kinds of formats now, so it can be a lot easier to learn.
So if somebody comes to you and they're like, okay, I know that I need help with my TikTok, but I don't personally like being in front of the camera because I've had clients in the past that were like, I'm not going to be in front of the camera. This is not my thing. What are some suggestions that you would give to them when they know that they need to be either on Reels and TikTok and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. That can be a tough situation. And I think it really depends on the business. Now, I always say that TikTok is a personality driven app, right? People are looking to connect with real people. So if you have a small business or you have a service that you're selling, you are going to have to show up on camera because we know about the know, like, and trust factor. You need to get people to know you and like you and trust you and feel connected, feel seen by you, feel heard in order to convert them to a sale. So you do have to show up on camera. You can't avoid it 100% if you have a business. However, there are lots of video formats now that have kind of come about where you don't have to be on camera all the time. So one example of that that's super popular and trendy on TikTok right now are the photo carousels. And these are a lot of the trends, but that's like you don't have to show up on camera, right? Because all you have to do is like put photos up in a slideshow with text on screen. Another one are the CapCut templates, also very, very popular. Those don't
Yes.
require you to show up on camera. And then there's the videos where, maybe you're filming like a tutorial or behind the scenes or telling a story, and maybe it's just a voiceover or text with a voice. So again, you wouldn't have to show up on camera. So you don't have to show up 100% of the time in every single video. However, I do recommend that you do have to be the face of your brand when you are a small business or a service provider. To at least I would say 50%, maybe more, kind of depending on your business and the goals.
Yeah, definitely. It's helpful. Like I tell people this all the time. We talk about it on podcasts all the time. Having a brand personality and just showing people who you are online is so important if you want to grow
Mm-hmm.
online.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So it seems recently that people have been talking more and more about stagnation on TikTok, that they're not getting the views that they used to, or they're not getting the growth that they once used to. Is this something that you're seeing, or is this something that you feel like people aren't focusing on the right things now that TikTok's been around for a while?
Absolutely. I love that you're asking this question and asking the hard stuff. For sure, the algorithm is not the same as it was in 2020. 2020, 2021, it was super generous. I know, we had more organic reach. I used to get a lot more views, like 50,000, 100,000 views on each video. And we do not have that same organic reach today. There's also a lot more going on with the app. There are different ways that you can make content. Ads have come into play. So there is a lot more competition for attention. So that's why a lot of people will say that. And this is where, you really got to get a lot more clear on who you're trying to attract, what your goals are, your messaging, and focusing on quality. The quantity days are over. The algorithm is super, super slow. If you can put out quality content, and I know that can be subjective, we can talk about that if you have
Yeah.
questions, but it will last you over a longer period of time, right? I still have videos from 3 months ago that bring me followers. 6 months ago, I even right now I have a video from 2020 that people keep commenting on and engaging with, which is crazy. So they're either probably finding me through search. I'm coming up in some sort of search result on that one.
Yep. It's really interesting just because I feel like when people were first starting, it was always like about put as much content as you can possibly put
Mhm.
out there on
Yeah.
TikTok. Like if your hook isn't working at the first video, try it again and do a different hook and see which one's working for you. And what do you mean by quality content now?
Quality has to be, it has to really have a clear message, and you have to know what is the purpose of that content, and who are you trying to attract, and what problem does it solve, right? That is going to be probably result better for you. Now, there are some other kind of tricks to kind of improving your content. I wouldn't even call them tricks. I would say, playing into emotions is also very, very popular and effective on TikTok. Storytelling is very effective as well. So there are other ways to go about it, but that's kind of like the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I guess why do you think that short form video is so important right now? Because people are still out there not doing short form video. And I get really frustrated with clients and they're like, nope, we're not going to do it. We're not doing reels. We're just going to stick with photos and then wonder why they're not growing at all on social media.
Yeah, well, short form, well, first of all, it's not going anywhere. We know how popular it is. It is easy to consume and it's easy to communicate a message to people. So, yes, you really should be leveraging it. Why do people not want to do it? I think because we're all time strapped in this busy, crazy world we live in. And it's not always an easy process to outsource, especially, maybe for older individuals. I feel like, Gen Z, like they're born as content creators, right? They just know how to communicate messages through a video. They are familiar with the formats. But for us elder millennials or even older, right? Remember, video marketing didn't exist when we went to
Yeah.
high school or college. There was no courses in it. So it can be really overwhelming and intimidating. And I know for sure when I first joined TikTok, I did scroll for like a month. I was scared of all the buttons and I was scared of like putting a video out there. Like, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? But then, it comes down to a bit of a mindset practice there and knowing that when you post anything publicly on the internet, you cannot take things personal from strangers.
That's very true. I can't even like the amount of comments that we've had on our own like TikToks before where people and it's just obviously we're talking about social media and people will just have such fierce opinions on things and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, who knew that people would have such be so opinionated on this one thing?"
Yeah, well, people love to give opinions, so that's another kind of growth strategy is to play into that and then encourage opinions or talk about polarizing topics.
Yeah, that's a huge one, I think. So for people who are a little bit nervous and apprehensive about starting their first TikTok video or doing that first TikTok video, what are some kind of videos that they can make to kind of dip their toe in the water, so to speak?
Yeah, one of the kind of easiest videos that you could make that doesn't require you showing up like live and speaking on camera are what I call mixed rolls. Mixed rolls are music and text and B-roll. So these are super popular on Reels. I see a lot of them. More, it's also popular on TikTok, but I feel like talking heads are more popular on
Yeah.
TikTok compared to Reels. And so this can be B-roll is like video footage or clips of anything. It could be one clip that's like 8 seconds long. It could be multiple clips that tell a story. But most of the times with these videos, they are 8 seconds long. People will do things like they just point their camera towards their feet and film themselves walking. And then they put music on it and then text. And that text can be educational. So you could be sharing some sort of tips, or it could be inspirational or thought provoking. So that's probably one of the easiest ways to make videos is to do those mixed roles. Very popular on Reels.
Yeah. So what are sorry, I'm trying to go back. So between shorts, reels, and TikTok, obviously, for those that don't know, all of those are very short form content. What do you think is important to focus on when it comes to growth on each of those platforms?
Ooh, good question. So I have some opinions that not everyone is going to agree with.
We love it.
But so the big one is repurposing. A lot of people will either make their videos in TikTok or maybe in Reels and repurpose them to all three platforms and also other platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook Reels and Pinterest and, wherever they can. And that is one maybe growth strategy for people that might work. For some people, it does work. Majority of people, my students or people come to me all the time and they say the videos that I make on TikTok, they don't work on Reels.
Yeah.
So it can be really challenging in that case. Because who has time to make content individual for each platform? There are different cultures that exist on these platforms. I still believe that Reels, from what I see, is still following the aesthetic vibes. The types of videos I see there, videos with the trending music and beautiful scenery, or those travel videos, they don't exist in the same way as
Yeah.
they do on TikTok. There's a different culture on all these apps. I will say, however, though, there's not much difference between Shorts and TikTok. I feel like Shorts is pretty much a copy of TikTok. They are working really hard to create a culture there, but they struggle to get people to make original content. They're improving their in-app video editor and improving and creating different features that are similar to TikTok and Reels. However, it hasn't quite got there yet. Maybe in another year or so. It did take Reels some time to
Yeah.
differentiate its culture from TikTok. But now I just feel like I'm rambling from the
No,
original
no, no.
question, but it's the whole repurpose thing. So if you can repurpose and it works for you, it seems to work on all the platforms, amazing, do it. But if it doesn't, then I would suggest focusing on one platform, have one main platform. And maybe sometimes speak into the Reels trends, maybe you don't.
I love that. How do you personally find trends for each platform?
Yeah. Most of the time, I do what a lot of people do is scroll the
Yep.
For You page or the Explore page. I find the trends are also, again, different versus TikTok and Reels. The one thing about TikTok is, some people don't want to, spend time scrolling looking for trends. So that's why I post them on my page and I share them there. And I have a membership for trends and for TikTok, Reels, and Shorts. On Reels, it's much easier to find trends because we all know that little arrow pointing up means it's a trending
Yep.
sound. However, on Reels, the trending sounds are more popular than what I call trends. So I make a clear distinction between the two. On TikTok, a trend is where you're using a sound, and a part of that trend is to perform some sort of action within that trend. Like maybe you're supposed to reach your hand out and pretend like you're shaking someone's hand, or you're lip syncing something. There is something that you do with that sound. And the sound is a punchline, right? There's like a punchline to that trend.
Yep.
Whereas trending sounds are just sounds that are popular that people like to use because they believe that it boosts their video. Although we don't get any data on that. So I always wonder.
Don't. Yeah.
It's all
Because
just guessing. We don't get any clear data in our analytics on that. Keep that in mind. So the trending sounds are a lot more popular on Reels. Versus TikTok, where the trends are more popular, especially what I call the POV trends, because they're super easy to do and take less than 5 minutes to make a video, and they're adaptable to any niche, so they're all over the app.
amazing. So I get this question a lot from people. Do you think that everyone should jump on every single trend, or should be people be strategic about how they should do the trends?
Absolutely strategic. Don't just jump on any trend. So here's one thing, to even think about. And I admit this myself. Like I built a brand, right? I have a background in personal branding. So I was like, I'm going to build a brand on TikTok. And I built this brand of the Queen of Trend Alerts. It kind of just evolved. And so, yes, I promote trends and I talk a lot about trends, and they have a special time and a place, and you can use them very strategically. And again, this is what I teach in my courses and my membership. However, they're only one part of your content strategy. It is actually more important to make original content, and you want to make primarily original content than rely on the trends. So I would say, trends can be, it depends on, again, the goals of your account and what you're using them for, but maybe they're only like 20 or 30% of the type of content you put out. And original is more like 50%. So I hope that's really clear. Do not do all trends because it's one of the biggest mistakes I see. You are risking that people are just not going to understand who you are and what you do and what you offer if everything you do is a trend and you're acting silly or doing these memes all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So for somebody who is working in the social media, who may be a social media manager working with a client, what kind of advice would you give them when they're approaching their client who wants to do a trend? Because we get that so often where they're like, "Well, my client has texted me and said that we have to do this trend today, but it doesn't go with their brand."
Okay, so first of all, you want to focus on those POV trends because they are adaptable to any niche. So they will not have to say it doesn't go with our brand. Because they are adaptable to any niche. And you will see a lot of the big brands doing these trends. Like Scrub Daddy does a lot of those.
Yes.
Trying to think off the top of my head who else does them, but that's just one.
Duolingo and all those.
Yeah, Duolingo, right? They're always able to incorporate these trends into their niche. So focus on the POV ones. Again, that is where you use text on screen and you make some sort of a joke that relates to that punchline and that also is relatable to your target audience. Another thing, I might be rambling again because this
No.
starts to happen, but another thing is that, trends can be really that top of the funnel content, right? So the purpose of them for your brand or business might be just to get more eyeballs on who you are, more of that brand awareness, and not necessarily conversion. So keep that in mind. One good reason why to do trends. But the other thing I just want to say about this, because I think there's a lot of misconception, is that you have to jump on this trend immediately.
Yes.
No, you do not. I used to think that too, and I used to teach that as well. And then I noticed that people, like I would see very successful videos that was a trend that was a couple weeks old. And I thought to myself, okay, why is this happening? And it's just because I'm a big believer in this, content is king. The message that you're communicating is what will determine your video performance. It doesn't matter what hashtag you used, if you used a trending sound, the time that you posted. Those are all strategies and they are really important things to consider. But content, the message that you're communicating is what the message that you're communicating is what will determine your video performance depending on how people engage with it, because we know you need watch time. If people are watching the video, they're liking it, they're commenting, they're sharing, they're saving, you are going to get more views. So always think about what is the message you are communicating in this video.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Um, I guess my final question is
Mhm.
what trends are you currently enjoying, liking, or do you think that brands and businesses should be jumping on?
Good question. I think that the CapCut trends are losing a little bit of popularity. I
Yeah.
feel like earlier in 2023, like they just dominated my feed. They're not as popular anymore. I think people get tired of those ones pretty quickly. I do notice if I see the same one a few times, I'm kind of like,
Scrolling
seen
through
this,
quickly. Yeah.
scrolling through quickly. They seem to be kind of fading. The photo carousels are really popular on TikTok right now. So definitely think about how you can play into that. There are also sometimes trends, like sometimes so what I mean by that is you in that photo carousel, there's a thing that you're supposed to do. Like maybe you post three photos, like two of your childhood and then one of you like currently now, so it's like a glow up type of trend, and then on each slide you put text that relates to the sound. So those are very up and coming and kind of what's most trendy right now.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. How can people find you online and go follow you and join your trending sounds and your trending TikToks?
Yeah, for sure. So, first of all, you can follow me on social media at Wave Wyld, or my accounts on TikTok and Instagram, my primary platforms. If you're interested in my membership, it's at my website, wavewyld.com/inside scoop, where you can get all the trends for all the platforms and content ideas with fill in the blank hook prompts. It's all there. Or just, check out my website, wavewyld.com.
Amazing. And I'll link everything in the show notes so people can come and find you and follow you for all of your brilliant content.
Yay.
Thank you
Thank you so
so
much.
much. Thank you. I really appreciate your time today.
It was my pleasure. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.